Hello, my name is Alex Bennett, and I am a first gup in Subak Do Moodukwan. I have with me here Master Joe Weeks. He is a 4th degree black belt, and he is also one of the founders of Region 6. So we have asked him to come here today to tell us a little bit about his history in Moodukwan and kind of his story to share with us today. So thank you for coming, Master Weeks. So can you tell me a little bit about what got you interested in Tong Soo Do in the beginning?
Well, I was in the Air Force, and I got stationed in Osan Air Force Base. And when I got there, they assigned me to a barracks. And in the barracks, I met these two men that was talking about going out in the village and taking this thing called Moodukwan. And I'd never heard of it before, and so they asked me to come and go with them. So I went out there and I watched what they were doing, and I really just fell in love with it because I'd always been picked on. I was a little guy, and this way I could learn how to take care of myself. And also it helped me in my work. I was an air policeman. They taught us a little bit of stuff, but it wasn't anything like we were learning in Moodukwan. But anyway, I started taking it, and the instructor out there was Mr. Kim. And I don't know what his first name, but if he ever said it, I never knew it, but he was always Mr. Kim. Anyway, we got to know this guy named Shin Jae Cho. And anyway, Shin could speak English good. And we asked him if he'd come on base and start a school. And he said he would if we could get permission from Grandmaster Hongi. And he inquired and got permission from Grandmaster Hongi. We started a school on base. And we got Quonset hut, fixed it all up, put the flag up and pictures and all that. And that's where he was teaching. Then we'd go out in the village and take advance from the black belts out there because they taught us a little more than Mr. Shin, because Mr. Shin had to just teach basics, was what he was teaching, and that was great to us, but we wanted to get a little bit ahead of the people because we didn't have but a year. That's all we had to get our black belt. Anyway, that's where I took it and how everything went. We had several students in our school on base, good guys.
So we have heard a few stories about who you trained with, and one of them happens to be somebody who's very famous right now. And so you said that you trained with Chuck Norris, and who was the other gentleman you trained with?
It was Francis Heitman was his name. They were the two guys that I met in the barracks and provided. They were talking about the karate and going out there. I forgot to mention their name. But anyway, Chuck and I became real close friends. We just did a lot of things together. We trained together. We would even, when we come back to the barracks, we'd always kind of trade, me and him and Heitman. We'd take turns kicking each other or hitting each other or throwing each other around. But we did good. It was really exciting thing.
So Chuck and y'all would get into your fights and sparring and stuff. Who would win?
I'd win one time, he'd win 5. So he was better than me. He was better than anybody in the class. You could tell that he was really, because he just loved it. I mean, he was, and he was good. He was very strong and very, very good. But it helped me because I could learn from him. And Chuck was a good, very good guy.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the training and the level of discipline that y'all had to have to complete your training?
Well, our school is a lot different than they are in the States. Whenever we would go out there, and it was very, very disciplined stuff. You just couldn't mess around. There was no joking around. Everything was serious. And whenever we would work out, you'd come home where you'd have some bruises or sore spots or something because you'd either get hit or kicked or something. And their theory was that if you don't get kicked, you won't know how to block it. So, and you'll learn quick how to block and how to, to take care of yourself because you don't want to get hit again. And Mr. Shen was he'd show you one time how to do it, and he'd show you the second time a little rough. And then whenever he had to show you that third time, he got real rough with it. So it makes you learn better, and you'll learn the right way.
What did the locals think about having U.S. troops come into their dojang and learn martial arts with them? How were y'all treated?
Very good. I mean, they're very good. They really seemed like they wanted to do it because they didn't know what Americans were, and they only knew it by what they heard. And so once they found out what we were just like them, we just wanted to learn karate like they did. And we became good friends with a lot of them. I mean, very good friends. They was always just nice as they could be to us. And vice versa, we would be nice to them, except when we fought them. But it was good.
Can you tell me a little bit about your black belt test and how that experience was?
Chuck took his black belt test about a month before I did mine. He wasn't going to be there for the regional testing, so he had to have his testing personally. And we went to Seoul, and me and Francis Heitman, Jake, and Mr. Shen, and Mr. Kim, and a guy named, I can't remember his name. But anyway, there was another man. And Chuck, whenever he tested for the black belt, the Grandmaster Hongi was testing him, standing there just looking at, watching him. And he had to do a side kick. He asked him to do a side kick down 4 or 5 of them, And he did that with his right leg. And then when he turned around, Mr. Hongi said, come back. He turned around, well, he did it with his right leg again, or started to. And Grandmaster Hongi said, no, other leg. And Chuck had a bad hip, and I think later on in life he's had it replaced. But anyway, he had to do it with his other leg, and he kind of bared through it, and the pain didn't bother him. He went ahead and did it, and he passed it, and he got his first black. Then the regional, whenever it came, I was able to go to it in Seoul, and there was about 250 black belts that was testing for different degrees at this regional. And we would sit down in a big auditorium. We sat on the floor and crossed our legs, and we sat there until they called you. And there was about 3 groups being tested at a time, and so whenever they called me, my legs had just about gone to sleep, and I kind of wobbled a little bit getting up there. And by the time I got up there, I was okay. And then we had to do Basal, I did, for my testing. And I had done it 1,000 times, just over and over and over, because I knew this was my only chance. If I didn't make it this time, I'd come back to States and I wouldn't be a black belt. And that was my goal, to get that black belt. So whenever I got up and I started the motion, and I don't remember what happened, I just blanked out. And the next thing I knew, I was finishing the last move. And I looked over at Mr. Shen thinking he's gonna just blow up because I messed up. But he done his thumb up, and I said, oh man, I'm okay. But anyway, I did make it, and my number is 3596. And I was so proud. I was so proud to get that black belt. And it's really been one of the highlights of my life.
Well, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that feels that way during testing sometimes. So that's very comforting. What did the other soldiers think of y'all's training?
the ones on base, they didn't really have any, one way or the other. They didn't know what it was, so they didn't even really care. I mean, now we had some that would come, you know, to the school, and some stuck with it, and some just did it for a while, and then they leave. I just didn't interested on too much. They don't want to put out too much effort sometimes. But we had some good students, and when I left, there were some real good students who still take it. I can't remember the names. That was 60 years ago. So anyway.
Can you tell me a little bit about after you left Korea and moved back to the United States and starting your first school?
When I came back, I was discharged, and I started the school in barber school, going to trade school, and I would teach in karate in Shreveport, Louisiana. I started school down there, and I would teach on weekends, and I would show them what to do this week, and then go back the next weekend. I'd correct what they were doing wrong, and then give them something else to do. And they did real good. They learned a lot, and Mr. Golden owned the athletic club, and he was very good, caught on quick, and a very strong man. But anyway, I did that for about a year, and then I got out of school, and I got a job in Magnolia. So I opened a school in Magnolia, and I gave that one, or turned it over to Billy Golden, and he continued it for several more years. But so when I in Magnolia, I taught for about 20 years. I tested probably 15 black belts, and I taught self-defense for women and just different classes with young kids and advanced classes. Anyway, it worked out real good. And one of my black belts was Mr. Jay Pittman, and he started school in El Dorado, and so he did real good there. And one of his black belts was Mr. Bennett, or Master Bennett now. He's a 4th degree black belt, and he's really done good with the school, and he's a very, very good teacher and very good person. Anyway, he's doing great there.
Good. Can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with Chuck Norris now and how it has been since y'all left training together so many years ago?
Well, we stayed in touch for quite a while because he wanted me to come out there. And I told him I would as soon as I got out of school. And then whenever I got out of school, I was teaching there in Shreveport, and I told him as soon as I could get enough money for a flight, I would save up enough money. I was heading that way. And he just kept writing me and said, I got 3 schools and nobody but me. I need you, you know. So we talked, we wrote letters and talked on the phone. So, but I met my wife in Shreveport when I was teaching it, and we got married, and that ended my dreams of adventures. But anyway, who knows? I had a good life here anyway. So anyway, things turned out fine. But he went on, got the movies, and doing great. I'm so proud of him. I'm glad that he did.
Can you tell me a little bit about the founding of the Federation in New Jersey?
Mr. Shin came over to Burlington, New Jersey. One of his black belts that he had after I left, got him over here, and he called me and told me he was here and all that, because we were friends in Korea real good, and he wanted me to come up and see if he couldn't help to set up a federation or set up something to be the groundwork for something good. And I went up there, and me and there was 8 other black belts there, And we sat down and kind of got rules and regulations and how we'd run it. And Mr. Shen, he was very smart, very sharp guy. So he got it started, and he assigned me to Regional 6, or made me the president of Regional 6, as he gave me a certificate and all that. So that's how I became the president of Regional 6.
So if you have any words that you would like to share, or any advice you'd like to share for somebody that is starting martial arts, what would you share?
I think it's a great thing. I think it's one of the better things that a person can do. It's not necessarily to be a big man about town, I guess you might say, or you go around whipping everybody. You learn to know that what you can do. And if somebody does pick on you or is a bully to you, it doesn't bother you to turn around and walk away, because you know what you could do. And there's no need in proving anything. And it keeps that way, and plus the discipline of it. A lot of people don't know, never had to be disciplined in any way. Nobody's telling them what to do. They just do whatever they want to. And then when they start taking martial arts, they learn that they suffer the consequences of their actions, in other words. And there's a lot of things that they learn about it, and that discipline of it and all that. But anyway, it's a great thing. I love it, and I always have.
Well, we would definitely like to say thank you for sharing your story with us. It's very inspirational, and the history of it has been very, very interesting. So, and I'd also like to thank y'all for listening. So, Subak!
Moodukwan!